All right. Good afternoon. 12:44 Sunday. For y'all coming home from church, and for y'all who don't go to church, you Hebrew Israelites, Yahsharalites from the assembly, from the conference from last night, and etc. Maybe today too. Y'all have conference teachings, genealogy. Well, I got some YouTubes to keep bringing to try to help some of the Hebrew laity. Now I got artifacts and papers and books and scripture, all type of stuff I use to try to blend in some of this stuff that most of the Hebrew laity never had a chance to really decipher, because you don't decipher that when you are, you just listen up. So now we're gonna cover some stuff here. And this topic here, after doing the I don't even know what I did last. I forgot already. Look at that.
Ronald's on the phone.
Oh, hold on, dog. Ronald got to wait now.
He was just saying.
Wait. They gonna hear you. Wait, go. My son.
He was saying.
The language of Matthew 24 with the Old Testament languages. That's the name of this one. It's YouTube. I'll repeat again. The language of Matthew 24 with the Old Testament languages prophetically. This is a big problem for most of you futurists. Confusion. Futurist literal interpretation of everything prophetically spoken, heaven and earth, etc. I still didn't get to heaven and earth yet, but this is just a little hors d'oeuvres to that. Little thing when you go to a restaurant and say, what do you want before you get the meal? So this is maybe a little bit of thing to help that, because this same type of conversation would come up with the heaven and earth, but this is not just using heaven and earth. Pretty much ain't really using heaven and earth. It's using Matthew 24 with the sun, moon, darkening, and all that stuff. But heaven and earth is another symbolic or stuff that has to be broken down. All right. So now, the language of Matthew 24 with the Old Testament languages. I'm going to read from this pamphlet of mine that I had. When did I print this out? In 2008, 2008. 11 years ago, I printed this out. 11 years ago, it says on the bottom of the, when I printed it out. 2008 at 11:52. Almost the same time talking, 12:46. Interesting. Maybe that was, let me shut up. But anyway, I'm going to read this, part 2. I'm going to read this thing from this piece of paper. So maybe some of y'all can decipher this, and hopefully this helps. All this is try to help the Hebrew laity, because that's who I'm addressing. I'm not addressing Christians. Yeah, I address them sometimes in some of the YouTubes, and Jews and whoever else. But I'm basically dealing with the Hebrew black or colored Hebrew Yahsharalites. We're addressing them. We're trying to build them up to outside of genealogy, because your mores and your teachers are going to teach you eschatology. They're not going to give you this other stuff. And then if they do, we don't know. We're going to give them some Acts 17:11 to make sure. All right, here we go. This is what it says. This is what the guy wrote on this thing. I'll tell you, this guy's a partial preterist. And partial preterist sounds so much like full preterist that you can get, oh, wow, look at that. And then they just put their own foot in it and they just screw up. And the guy with Ronald Dalton and William Bell, the dude that did the moderator, I forgot his name, Michael or whatever his name is, I forgot. He said he's a partial preterist. He almost there, man. He almost there. Keep digging. This is what this guy's saying. This exactly illustrates why this document is so important. When most people read the prophetic language of Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 24, but we're just going to deal with Matthew 24 right now. Mark 13, Luke 24, right? Luke 21, I mean. Languages like coming in on the clouds of heaven, and the sun will be dark and moon turned to blood. They incorrectly associate such phrases with the second coming of Hamashiach. He's a partial preterist. So he's saying that's just what he's going to show, what the language was coming on cities and nations in the past, which I agree with. Because the second coming is not talking about the cities and the nations in the past, in the country, and the stuff that went on in the Old Testament, because Yahushua wasn't even born to come back. So the language of the New Testament does not get taken out, the coming parasua, because the language is the same, because they understood this being Israelites, because of your partial preterist background of this guy. If we could transport back in time, to be in the audience of Yahushua and his disciples when he actually made these statements. We would be the ones with the puzzlement like the teenage grandchildren and the Yehudim of that time. We'd be like sitting up there like, huh? All easy, right? It would be like the war over water. He gave an example of war veterans when they say the D-Day. When Yahushua said of Jerusalem coming on the clouds of heaven and the sun would be darkened, turned into blood, again, the audience would react in a very different ways than folks today reading English, Greek, or whatever else into the New Testament Hebraic thought. It just would not be the same, just that simple. The Yehudim of that time, he got Jews here, obviously you know that. The Yehudim of that time clearly understood and was familiar with this kind of language. Not talking to people learning Palo-Hebrew, English, and trying to fit their terminology, English language, learning Palo-Hebrew, and Christianity, Jews language into eschatology. They would have understood this kind of language. They read it many times. They were familiar with this kind of language. They read in many times the Old Testament, obviously. Acts 17:11, 1 Thessalonians 5:20. They knew the Old Testament. The Yehudim in the first century. To them it was nothing new. To us it's completely new. Because our English and our understanding, Western Hemisphere, etc., we just, Not everybody in the Western Hemisphere does not understand this stuff. But that clogged brain, clogged mind from futurism when you used to be a Christian, BHI, now BHA, Yahsharalites, y'all brought the package, you brought the suitcase. They understood such language was used many times in the past. Whenever Yah would overthrow or destroy a single nation at a specific time is key, they were familiar with several of these prophecies and historical fulfillments long before they were born. Talking about people living in the first century, hearing about Matthew 24 when that was told to them. Long before they were born, they understood all this. They knew this. This was nothing new to them. It's new to us because we've been taught from Christianity. We've been taught from the BHI, the Mores, the captains, the sergeants, the lieutenants, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And some of the guys who not called by titles in the Black Hebrew Israelite Awakening movement, genealogy, they've been teaching you the same futurist stuff. Bam. Prophetic language. Bam. Same. Been saying this for all these YouTubes. So now we're going to try to add some more to the fuel to the fire. Before you hastily conclude that such language like coming on the clouds of heaven and the sun will be dark and moon turn to blood is speaking of the second coming, because he a partial preterist. He's saying, no, that's not talking about the second coming. That's just talking about, because they would have understood the language. But unfortunately for him, in the Old Testament, it's not talking about him coming in that generation, which he prophesied. See, that's where they leave that out. Partial preterists do good, but we got that. We got that covered. Before you hastily conclude that the language like coming in the clouds and the sun will be darkened and the moon turn into blood is speaking of the second coming, look closely at the context in which it was used time and time again by Old Testament prophets to predict that was about to destroy a city or nation. Unfortunately for him again, he did destroy a nation and a city, Jerusalem and a nation. He spread it out, Luke 21:24. This was prophesied, this was told, this was going down. That has nothing to do, we're going to see in Matthew 24, about how many times he talked about the coming, parasua, that he's going to say that was only about destruction in the nation and city. But we're going into the lake. Come on, get up. Come on, get off. The cat, man. Yeah, get off. This ain't being mean to cat. He's in heat. I ain't no cat. I can't do nothing for you. Come on. You got to go find a male cat over there. He been thing. He can't help him. I can't help him. I ain't mean to my cats. We got 3 cats in here. He's rubbing up on me. Get out of here. Come on. What happened in Matthew 24:3, the sign of his coming, and the end of the age in Matthew 24? I'm asking this guy this question. What happened? Says that where's the sign of, when will be the sign of that coming? Not just the destruction of the temple. See, he can't quote that. He can't read that. He understands Matthew 24, this guy, but his partial preterist mindset, he's got to leave out coming and the end of the age. Coming is 5 times, coming, the word coming, 5 times, I believe, of Yahushua, not just judgment, partial preterist stuff. Not just judgment, that's what he's trying to say. But we're going to use his information, which is really good, on prophetic language. That most of the BHI's Hebrew laity pretty much is probably ain't never been challenged, ain't never read none of this stuff, ain't never looked at none of this stuff, boy. We living in the last days. We living in with the signs and and the TV and and we've been awakened, There's no need of this guy's crazy. Watching his YouTube, he's crazy. He's a partial, full prayer. He's a heretic. Don't even pay no mind. Shut the YouTube down. Don't watch it. Don't listen to him. He's crazy. High minis and fight chilies and overthrow the faith of some with the Christians. It's the same old blah, blah, blah. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to it, D. Prophecy, prophetic language used in the middle of the page and then fulfilled, and what time was fulfilled. But listen to the language when you read, and y'all get into Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21. When I've been discussing this for all these YouTubes about the language, sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's allegory, metaphors, but we're talking about prophetic language used, the same language you see in Matthew 24. And y'all say it got to be literal. Y'all, as Hebrew laity, has to be complete, physically, literally. That's why y'all get confused. That's why in the debate y'all was confused on heaven and earth, because it has to be 100% English, Hebrew, learning scripture, English from Christianity, prophecy, language, mind. All right, let's go. Yahsharalites chapter 13, 1, 6, and 13. Those are the verses. This was prophesied in 730 BC. And look what it says, the language. The day of Yahuwah is near. Hands fall limp. Man's heart melt, literally. Terror. Stars of heaven and constellation will not flash forth their light. Sun. That's one of our scriptures we're going to use. Chapter 13 of Yahsharalites. Dark when it rises, moon not shed his light, heaven shake and earth tremble. Heaven shake and earth tremble. That's what the heaven and earth. When was this fulfilled? On Babylon, 539 BC. Look at the language. Look what was prophesied, 730 BC, counting down to 539 BC. Look what the language. Think about Matthew 24. We're not reading Matthew 24. We'll get to Matthew 24 after we go to the Old Testament, so you can see the same language in the Old Testament that's prophesied in the Matthew 24, and then you got to take this literal concept on prophetic language and get the thing correct the best you can through the Ruach HaKodesh. Yahsharalites chapter 19, verse 1. What about coming on a swift cloud? Was Yahuwah riding on a cloud? A literal cloud? We asked the Christians and the Jews. Excuse me. Do we ask them, was Yahuwah riding on a swift cloud and it was about to come to Egypt? That's 19:1. The idols of Egypt, of Misraim, the idols of Misraim will tremble at his presence. This was prophesied 730 BC, fulfilled in Mitzrayim 480 BC. But listen to the language. Riding on the cloud. Every eye shall see him. Did every eye in Mitzrayim see him, Yahuwah on the cloud? Is that reported anywhere in history? Did that not happen? We're telling you the fulfillment. The guy's telling you the prophecy and the fulfillment date. Yahsharalites chapter 34. These are all the ones I'll be using with the heaven and earth. Especially Yahsharalites chapter 13 and Yahsharalites chapter 34. Definitely with heaven and earth. Of the hosts of the heaven, there we go. Stars will wear away. The sky will roll up like a scroll, and all their hosts will wither. 7 BC, Yahsharalites prophesied chapter 34, verses 4 and 5, 730 BC. I left the stuff in there because mine went. Well, that's her getting the stuff. So, prophesied 730 BC, but fulfilled on Edom. Edomites. Before 400 BC. Now she's putting a date. Now, if you want to get technical, you go get your Yosef ben Mattithyahu book. You start reading that Old Testament, and you start calculating that stuff, and bam, it's going to show you. Look at the language is the key thing here we're talking about. Not just the prophecy, the fulfillment date. The language is what this is all about. prophetic language used in the Old Testament compared with Mattithyahu 24. Ezekiel chapter 33, verses 3 and 4. The day of Yahuwah is near. They probably didn't get there yet. 590 BC. It will be a day of clouds. Clouds means judgment in the Old Testament. Not clouds with the rain we see today. That's not, and that language in the Old Testament means judgment. When did that come fulfilled? In Egypt, 480 BC. That wasn't long afterwards when that was prophesied. Not too long afterwards. Ezekiel 32, verses 7 and 8. 590 BC, I will extinguish Mitzrayim, Egypt, heavens covered, stars darkened, covered sun with cloud, moon not given light, shining lights in the heavens will be dark, darkness on the land. I know he's got Yoel in here. I was about to say Yoel, but I see it. That's right. Look at the language. That's right. Look at the language, what he was going to do to Egypt was prophesied and fulfilled in 480 BC. Let's move on. Amos chapter 5, verse 18 to 20. 755 BC. The day of Yahuwah, it will be darkness and not light, gloom with no brightness in it. This was prophesied against Yahsharalites in 722 BC. Amos chapter 8, verse 9. 755 BC, twice Amos, in a couple of chapters away. Same time fulfilled on Israel in 722 BC. Sun going down at noon in the daylight, sun going down, earth dark and broad in daylight. Where's this prophesied literally happened in 722 BC to make y'all 24, Matthew 24, literal discounting prophetic language from the preterists, etc. And even from the partial preterists with the language. Because they got the language stuff right. Or at least he does. But that second coming, they don't want, second coming, they don't want that parachute at return to be in there, because then that mess up their partial preterists. And that keeps them good with the futurists. Keeps them in good light. Zephaniah 1:7, verse 14 and 16, 630 BC prophesied. Near is the great day of Yahuwah, near and coming very quickly.
Are you saying near or near?
Near. My daughter thought I was saying her name when I said near. Near. Aha. Near is the great day. You better hope that wasn't talking about you. The day of Yahuwah near is and coming very quickly. Ooh, very quickly. That must have didn't happen. A day of wrath, trouble, distress, destruction, desolation, darkness. Gloom, clouds, thick darkness. A day of trumpet and battle cry. My. Zephaniah chapter 1, 7, 14 and 16, 630 BC prophesied, fulfilled in Jerusalem, 586 BC. These are dates that when you study eschatology, you know a lot of these dates are very familiar, 586 BC. A lot of these dates come up because you be studying this stuff and your head's hurting. All these dates and this and that. But main thing of this YouTube is about the subject, the prophetic language, to get an idea. Because if they're not teaching y'all this, then y'all need to ask them, what's up with this language that now all of a sudden becomes 1,000% literal when we get to Matthew 24. And the Hebrews and the Yehudim children understood this when they grew up 1,000 years later when they understood this. Wow, interesting, right? Yoel, chapter 2, verse 28, Acts 2:16. Yoel 2:16. No, Acts. Yoel 2:28. Acts 2:16. Same type of language. A great and awesome day of Yahuwah. Blood, fire, columns of smoke, sun and darkness, moon into blood. Y'all say the day of Pentecost was our day. We've been living the last day since the day of Pentecost. All the Yehudim 80-30. That's what he puts here, prophesied. This is what they saw. Now all of a sudden, did they write that down? This happened. The Yosef ben Mattithyahu, aka Pharaoh Josephus, a testimony of the first century events. Did he write this down? And physical stuff and calamities and stuff like this happening, literally, and stars and all that, and on the moon. What does it say here? Actually, y'all got the New Testament now, so now it's all literal. Blood, fire, clouds of smoke, sun into darkness, moon into blood. Interesting. New Testament, that was prophesied in 830 BC. It was fulfilled in 30 AD. The Yoel 2:28, prophesied in 830 BC, fulfilled in 30 AD. Next up, New Testament. New Testament. The literal. It can't be nothing else but literal. All of y'all. Every last one. The sign of the coming on clouds, prophesied in Matthew 24:29. Here we go, Matthew 24:29. 30 AD. Sign of the sun coming on clouds. The sun, Yahusha. Sun darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from the sky, roaring of the sea. Waves, men fainting from fear, heaven shaking. What did we just read from all the Old Testament prophecy? The same exact language in Mattithyahu that Yahusha was talking about in Mattithyahu 24. Because he was from the tribe of Yehuda. Not a tribe from the Americans. So, there you go. Jerusalem, where was this prophesied? When did he put 70 AD, I put 67 to 70 AD when he came back in his parasur, which they don't believe, but they believe in the prophetic language. Them obviously have to be partial predators who wrote this pamphlet, who wrote this study. Let's go to another one. Mattithyahu 26:64. This is another one we use in the New Testament. The Son of Man sit in the right hand of power, coming on clouds of heaven. 30 AD. When was this prophesied and fulfilled? In 66 to 70 AD on Jerusalem. The Yehudim, the 24:64. You need to read that chapter. The what's the name? Rent their clothes. The high priest got mad, rent their clothes, because that was making Yahusha out to be equal with Yahuwah, or being Yahuwah. That's another subject. Let's slow my roll. It's all good stuff. It's all good. 2 Kepha, chapter 3. Our famous heaven and earth. Here we go. This is the one y'all love. Y'all done woke up again. See, we told you. The day of Yahuwah will come. It hasn't come yet. Again, 2 Kepha chapter 3, verses 10 to 13. He's saying, according to his calculations, he believed this was prophesied in 8067. I don't believe it. I think it was probably before that. Maybe 8063, 64. Probably before that. Because they was mocking, saying, where's the promise of his coming? He said, some men don't count. Yahuwah counts no man's slackness, that all come to repentance, still giving them a time for repentance in the first century. Yehudim or anybody else who was being shared the gospel, the good news. So he's given time to repent, 2 Peter. Heavens will pass away with a roar, elements destroyed with intense heat, earth and works burned up. Now I know y'all. Well, wait a minute. The earth and the works burned up. That's literal. But all this other language in history was never literal. But now we get to the New Testament and y'all blow a head gasket and then y'all call names and get mad and I ain't listen to him. He ain't that. And all these scriptures you got, you can't beat this, folks. You can't flip it. You can go and even get the Hebrew spin doctor. We'll spin him around and send his behind back. You can't, it won't work. It just won't work. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Revelation 1:7. He's got 96 AD from Tertullian. It's from Polycarp, who's supposed to be a buddy of Yehoiakim. Yeah, so-called. So-called. That's why he's got 96, because he believes, I guess, it's in the future. That's why he's got second coming here, with no time under it, because he's a partial preterist. Mashiach is coming with clouds in that generation. He can't do that, partial preterist. I put down second coming, even though the second coming is not in scripture. It says second time apart from sin. Second time. 67 to 70 AD. 2 Peter 3, 10 to 13, 67 AD. I say that's about 64. I can go get the chronological time order of prophecy in the New Testament. I don't believe it's 67 because that's the time when the wars with Titus and Vespasian started up. So that can't be the time that's being prophesied. Maybe it is, maybe it ain't, but I don't believe the date. That's no big deal. The point is, when was he supposed to return? In the first century. Here we go, some more. I got 24. Oh, I ain't doing too bad. Acts 1, 9 to 11. Uh-oh, he went up, the man of Galilee. 30 AD. Mashiach returned the same way he left with clouds. Second coming. Again, 67 to 70 AD. This is the fulfillment of that. He just got second coming. He just leaves the date out. He leaves the generation out. He leaves all this other stuff that I could throw in there. He just leaves it out. Partial preterists has to be. No way around about it. Then he's got some other stuff that happened in regular history. We're not going into that. Parallel passages too. Important note. Here he goes back to Zephaniah, Jeremiah. Zephaniah 1 and Jeremiah chapter 4 are unquestionably parallel. That's what he's saying. Those two chapters in the Old Testament are unquestionably parallel together. That's what he says, there's some questions as to whether Zechariah 14, y'all like to use Zechariah in the Old Testament to try to skip into the millennium and far future. Zechariah 14 refers to the destruction of Jerusalem 70 AD. And now we're going to find out we don't see no third temple stuff here. Oh, man. All right. Some other times it's saying destruction of Jerusalem, those two chapters. With Zechariah 14 refers to the destruction of Jerusalem 70 AD. Some other times it is speaking of spiritual church. There's no such thing as spiritual church. A spiritual church. A spiritual church. It is a different passage. It is a difficult passage talking about Zechariah 14, a chapter. It is included here for the interest's sake, not conclusive evidence. Not for him, but for me, yes. On the other hand, might very well apply to 70 AD. On the other hand, he says, I believe the inspired scriptures are completely evidence of the truth. That doesn't make me right and him wrong. That's his opinion. I got mine. Y'all got yours. We just breaking bread, and I'm challenging y'all to about prophetic language, to hold your peace, calm down, relax, don't worry about it. It is mine, my friend. For me, it is not conclusive. It is conclusive evidence for me. It's not put off to 2019 years and whatever, making the language ambiguous. I don't know what he's saying. We don't know who's talking. Sure, we don't know. Nobody's saying none. We don't know because we got to have it in the future. Our boys got to see it. Demanded him. Remember, we told you to teach yesterday. They were demanding him a sign. Demanding it. Wow. And that's most of the time what we hear today. Well, show it, prove it. My eyeballs got to read it. And Yosef ben Mattithyahu don't prove it. I don't care. My got to see it. I'm going to live. And grandparents have died. Everybody else died in 2019 years. We going to die. It's just, Two historical destructions of Jerusalem in history. Two. Now we got this third temple prophesied, Yang coming in the future. Third temple. Zechariah chapter 39, 40, I believe. Whatever. Third temple. We got two in scripture. Here comes the third temple. First destruction by Babylon in 585 or 86 BC. Zephaniah chapter verse 15, a day of darkness, gloom, cloud and glooms. We went over Zephaniah. Jeremiah chapter 4. Chapter 4, 23 and 28, no light, heavens and dark. He's showing that those two chapters unquestionably are parallel. He's showing that Zephaniah and Jeremiah are prophesying the same thing. And just look at the language again. Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 7 and 14. Near is the great day of Yahuwah. Near is the great day of Yahuwah. 21, this is the first temple being destroyed prophecies. Jeremiah chapter 6, verses 1, 22. A people is coming from the north, a great nation, Babylon. Now y'all don't skip that down to Gog and Magog today, to the China, to Russia. This is the first temple destroyed in 585, 86 BC. Verse 16, Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 16. A day of trumpet against fortified cities. Jeremiah chapter 4, verses 19, chapter 6, verse 1. Sound of trumpet, alarm of war. Same language as Zephaniah. Zephaniah, verse 15 again. I don't know why I put 15. A day of wrath, trouble, distress, destruction, desolation. Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 4, 27, 5, chapter 5, verse 10. Yet not a complete destruction. It wasn't totally destroyed in 585-86 BC. But look at the language. But here's the fulfillment of the first destruction of Jerusalem with those prophetic 2 books. Now, the second destruction by Rome in 70 AD. No third temple stuff here. No third temple stuff here. And no such thing as no third temple talking about, unless they put that in here to try to justify their partial fulfillment garbage. Unless they got slick. But let's see. I gotta hurry, man. It's time going by. Zechariah chapter 14, verse 6. In the day there will be no light. The luminaries, the lights in the skies will dwindle. Prophesied in Zechariah, chapter 14, verse 8. Fulfillment in the terminology, Matthew 24, same language. The sun darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from the sky. Matthew 24, same as Zechariah 14. What is this talking about? This is the same language used in the destruction of the Second Temple of Rome by Rome 70 AD, using Roman armies. Just like you use armies like this pamphlet says in the past. But they eliminate the parasua, just trying to say he used the nations to destroy other nations with using the prophetic language. So he tried to get out the coming, though. They tried to get out of that. Verse 5, Zechariah chapter 14, verse 5. The Lord. Yahuwah will come with his holy ones. Let's go to Mattithyahu chapter 24, verse 30. The Son of Man coming on clouds. Romans came to destroy. Verse 31, send forth his angels. Same language. He goes, Zechariah, okay, the next one, verse 31, great trumpet. He don't have nothing for Zechariah there. Verse 2, he goes back to Zechariah 14. Great nations against Jerusalem to battle. City captured, house plundered, woman ravished. Luke 21:20. Jerusalem surrounded by armies. No third temple knowledge. Third temple stuff here. Nothing about no third temple. Luke 19:41-44. Enemies surround you, hem you in, level the ground. That comes from Deuteronomy 28. We can go back to Deuteronomy 28. They're gonna siege you inside your gates. Y'all don't read that when y'all read Deuteronomy 28. All y'all talking about is Deuteronomy 28:68 about taking the ships. But the siege part you take out. And the west coast of Africa was never in no siege. Around the whole west coast of Africa. Verse 2 also. Zechariah 14. Half the city exiled. Half not cut off. Matthew 24:40. One left, one taken. I ain't talking about no rapture. I ain't getting into that. Verse 5. You will flee from the valley of the mountains. Y'all ain't got no mountains. I don't know how many people y'all live around the mountains. This is straight to people living in that vicinity, that type of environment over there in Northeast Africa, in that strip of where all those mountains were. Not just the mountain of olives. There must have been other mountains in the vicinity of Jerusalem. Not New York City. Not Detroit. Not North Carolina. Luke 21:21. Flee to the mountains. Y'all flee to subway stations. Fleeing back to your church. Let me stop. Fulfillment of all this stuff from Zechariah. Let me go back to make sure I got it right. I want to put some words in my mouth. For the first destruction from Babylon, the fulfillment from 586 or 585 BC. The fulfillment of this. We all know this in prayers because we do this like homework. Fulfillment of 586 BC was 2 Kings 25, verses 1 to 12. Y'all notice a lot of you historian Akis and Hebrew Yahsharalites and doing your historical study. Y'all doing a lot of stuff right. I'm just sounding like I might be repeating myself. But I'm doing a lot of stuff for the Hebrew laity. When it comes to other stuff, I'm doing this to come after the big boys. But this is for the Hebrew laity to look at the prophetic language. So when you're being taught the prophetic language has to be total, literally. You got something to go off now. The other fulfillment in Matthew 24, fulfillment, Rome 66 to 70 AD. Here we go. We got a little quote from my buddy Yosef ben Mattithyahu, a Hebrew, an Israelite, not Jewish. Yosef ben Mattithyahu, black dude, for you Christian Jews come in, He was a black man. Y'all changed his name, like y'all changed the other names. Yosef ben Mattithyahu is his real name, not Farius Josephus. Even though the book cover has Farius Josephus, because obviously when the book came out, it was Now as soon as the army had no more people to slay means to kill, or to plunder, after the prophecy, because there remained none to be the objects of fury, Caesar, Augustus, not the Pope, not the Antichrist, in the future, gave orders that they would now demolish the entire city and temple. War's Book 7.1.1. War's Book 7. Two dots, obviously, colon, 1:1. If I did that right. Entire city and temple destroyed. No prophecy of no new third temple in no New Testament terminology nowhere on this planet Earth, in no scripture, from the Ethiopian books to the other books. No such thing as a third temple after Mashiach come. Anybody who says this to you is lying. Lying. That they making a mistake. Somebody lying. Because you can't find it in the New Testament. All they're going to do is bring the spin doctor back. Tell the cab, turn around, bring the spin doctor back. The Hebrew spin doctor. Bring him back. That's it. Now, he says in the bottom, Matthew 24:31. One more little message here. He got another little book, clouds. All the clouds coming in judgment, and clouds coming in clouds. Matthew 24:64, coming in clouds. Just about coming in judgment. Clouds indicate divine power. Psalms 104:3 and 5, verse 3 and 4. Completely agree with that. Clouds coming in judgment. When he left, he wasn't coming to judgment. The clouds hit him in Acts 1:9-11. He wasn't leaving it. He wasn't coming to judgment. So when you hear cloud judgment, him coming in clouds, it's talking about coming to judgment, as well as his parasute. That's presence. Physical body when he left was not coming through the clouds, and you're gonna see his little body. What was he? What were Yahushua, about 5'10"? They say, the historical 5'10". How you gonna see him in the clouds? Everybody anyway. My kingdom comes without observation. Everybody looking, that was letter A under other prophetic language explained. So he gives us clouds indicate divine power, Psalms 104:3 and 4. All this stuff is from preterists. All this stuff, he's a partial preterist, but all this stuff from preterists for people like myself, been doing this stuff and reading this stuff for years and years and years and years. Now, I'm going to go to C, because the other one's talking about angels and blah, blah, blah. C, Matthew 24:31, gathering of the elect, from the four winds. This is probably the Great Commission. He's saying probably. He put Christian, I crossed it, I put Nat side Ames. Preaching the gospel to the northern hemisphere after the slave trade, and they make sure the Israelites get to the other side of the world, etc. No, preaching the gospel to the whole world. Going to all the world. The world where here has to be Jerusalem in Yochanan 3:16, because he didn't die for the world. So this has to go into all Yehudim and preach the gospel to every creature. Go into all the world and preach the gospel, not law, statute, commandments. Again, Mattithyahu chapter 20:18. This was already done. I gave you all the verses about it. We already went over that. Colossians 1:6, Colossians 1:6, 1:23, Romans 1:8, Romans 10:16, I believe it. I guess it's just more. The gospel already preached. Shaul said to the whole world. First century. All right, trumpet sound, 24:31. Trumpet signals starts of battle. Numbers 10:1-10. Same language used in Zephaniah 1:6. Come on, people. This is all prophetic Old Testament language. Broken down. Jerusalem 586 BC. Zephaniah 1:16. A day of trumpets against fortified cities. Jerusalem chapter in 70 AD. Mattithyahu 24:31. A great trumpet. Okay, this is when he comes back with this in conclusion. His conclusion. So we can conclude that the language of Mattithyahu 24 is not referring to the second coming. But we're going to read in Matthew 24, 5 times the word coming is presented in the text. But he's saying we conclude that it's just judgment. out of the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. There's no second coming for him. Partial preterists. We conclude. So we can conclude. It was 100% fulfilled prophecy. Okay, yeah. Such language is the way the prophet described in prophetic language. The prophets in the Old Testament weren't talking about his second coming. They're talking about his first coming. Except certain parts in Daniel. The physical destruction of the Pacific nation. It has been applied to countless Old Testament nations that were destroyed. I agree there. Matthew 24 is not speaking of the second coming. Totally disagree. Luke 21, Mark 13. But the coming of Yah in judgment on Jerusalem 70 AD. Partial preterists. Use the prophetic language, use everything, take the second coming. Nope, that can't be. That has to be in the future. All the other stuff fits in, but coming, no. Interesting. We do find the same kind of language used in the New Testament. His second coming. Listen to that. Listen to what he says. We do find the same kind of language used in the New Testament to describe the second coming. So what he's going to do now, skip to the New Testament and say the same language you find in the Old Testament is for his second coming, obviously in the future. But all of this is entirely outside the context of Matthew 24. I put in my little notes on there. Partial preterists here, for sure. Laughing out loud. Laughing out loud all across the board. This comes from www.bible.ca, where you can Sabbath keepers refuted. Oh man, I may have to go back to the site. This is stuff I had a long time ago. They don't. So anyway, people, this is something that I tried to do. These guys are most likely probably partial preterists. They don't say they're partial preterists in this little illustration of prophetic language in the Old Testament. They did this to show you the language and how it's used in Matthew 24. They partial preterists, obviously they take out the coming of judgment on Jerusalem, and they probably believe the coming of judgment like you folks in the future on the whole entire planet. And the resurrection in the future. Blah, blah, blah. Now, here we go. So there you go. Some good stuff here on this particular subject, the language of Matthew 24 with the Old Testament languages. There you go. Shalom, peace. Don't take it personal. This is scriptural business to take care of stuff to try to help the Hebrew laity. There you go. That's what this is about. We sharing, we caring, and we going to bring the hammer. We got to bring it. Sometimes the hammer got to come out. Sometimes it got to come. I got to go back in the old school. Got to get it. Because these things is rough. It's not easy to be challenged like this. Not easy to be questioned. Not easy to think maybe I might be wrong. And Yah was wrong as well. I was wrong using Yahshua. Somebody gonna say you're still wrong. It ain't Yahusha. Well, for me it's Yahusha. Shua. Yeshua. The Jews use Yeshua. All of them have Shu at the end except Shah. Maybe we need to start studying that for you Yahshua boys out there. And for you Jesus folks, y'all know y'all better not come this way with that. Hebrew guys using Jesus. Hebrew folks using Lord and God. Hebrew folks. Woo-wee. Y'all question my Aki alliance. That's funny. But anyway, here we go. That's it. All right. That's it on that particular topic. I don't know if I'll see you later. It's football time. It's Sunday. I'm home from work. I had to go to work today. Knee or whatever. Still hurting, whatever. But now I can sit there and watch some football. Mess with y'all later. Anyway, take care. Shalom, peace. And it's not personal. It's business. That's like we say. That's my new motto. Friend or foe, I must tell you what I know. Or what I agree with, I would disagree with. That's all it is. Praise to the Father. Praise to the Son. Praise to the Ruach HaKodesh. And all glory to those three who are in power. Those who have dominion over our faith. Take care. Shalom. Peace. I'm out.